Hello everyone. So we'll be working on the half scale of size 14. So what we're doing is construction of basic skirt block size 14 half scale. So that means we'll be using half of every measurement we've had. So the first thing I'm going to do is divide my pattern into two. So like the widest part of my pattern, I'll just fold it. So I'll be using half of the pattern to work. I'll use half of my pattern to work. Because it's half scale. That means half of all the measurements we've worked on earlier on the full scale. I'm using half of my pattern. So let's say the full scale measurement, the waist is 70 plus 4 cm, that's 74. The hip is 99 plus 5 cm for ease, that's 104. The waist to hem, that's waist to hem is 64. So for half scale, we'll be using half of all the measurements. So that is waist for half scale will be half of 74, which is 74 divided by 2, that's 37. Hip is 104, so divided by 2, that's 52. Waist to hem is 64 divided by 2, there's 64 divided by 2, that's 32. So this is the full measurement. So for us to get our basic rectangle, our basic rectangle is width and length. So the width is half of the hip, which is 52 divided by 2, that's 26 for my basic rectangle. So I'll be using 26 cm and the length is 32 cm. So what we are using is 26 by 32 to get our basic rectangle for half scale. So half scale is basic rectangle 26 by 32. So what I want to do first is divide the width of my pattern. Get the measurement of my pattern first. From here to the edge, I have 45.5. So 45.5 minus 26. That's the width, my width measurement. 45.5 minus 26. So I'm going to use my calculator. 45.5 minus 26. So I have 19.5. 19.5 is the excess I have for the width. So whatever measurement you have left, 19.5, you will now divide it by 2 so that we can 19.5 divided by 2. So I have 9.75. So that means at this part I'll have 9.75 and 9.75 in order to centralize my pattern. So what I'll do is from the edge of my paper, I'll measure 9.75. So I'll measure 9.75 from the edge of my paper. So let's not forget our pattern might be different. So yours might the measurement might differ. So whatever measurement you get after doing the necessary division is what you will use. So 9.75 is what I'm using. And square it down. So our pattern width is 26. So I'll measure 26 from 9.75. So I'll measure 26. So I need to centralize our pattern. Placement of tape is very important. So I'll measure 26 and mark 26. Centralization is important. So that means whatever we're doing, we have to do it right. So this is the width. We've gotten the width. Next is the length. Half scale length is 32. So what I'm going to do is measure my pattern and divide into 2. So what I have here is 62. So 62 minus 32, that's 30, because our length here is 32. Pattern is 62 minus 32, that's 30. So what we have to take out is 30 divided by 2, that's 15. Let me explain again. The length of the pattern paper we have here is 62. So the length you need for your basic rectangle is 32. So you're going to minus it from the pattern measurement. So if the pattern is 62, my desired length is 32. If I minus it, I'll get 30. So that 30, I have to divide it so that I can have the same excess up here and down here. So 30 divided by 2, that's 15. So I'll measure 15 in order to centralize my pattern. So your measurements can differ. You just have to follow the basic way of doing it. So 15 and 15. Now from the 15, you measure the length that you need. The length we need is 32. So I'll measure 32. So it's best to do it this way so that you have the accurate measurement. Then I'll square out. So this is my basic rectangle. So let's not forget to label. Here we have CF on the right side, which is center front, and here we have CB, which is center back. So the next thing you want to do is divide your pattern width into 2. So don't forget the pattern width from here, one line to the other is 26. So dividing into 2 will be 13. So your measurement should be 13, please. If it's not 13, that means something is wrong. Because if you divide 26 into 2, you get 13. So this becomes a side seam. So for half scale is half of all the measurement of full scale. Now we have our center front, we have our side seam, and we have our center back. The next thing we're going to do is get our upper hip line and our hip line. So for size 14, that's the standard size, the upper hip line is 10 cm while the hip line is 20. So because we are working with half scale, upper hip line will now be half of the full scale. So upper hip line is going to be 5 cm while the hip line is going to be 10 cm, which is half of what we had. So I'll be measuring 5 for upper hip line, 10 for hip line, and then we'll connect. Don't forget, as you're working, you have to label. Please don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Also share the video so others can benefit from it. So we have the upper hip line and we have the hip line. Don't forget, I'm going to write 5 cm and then indicate where 5 cm covers, and 10 cm for hip line. So it's best you label always. Okay, next for the side seam, for standard we did 3 cm on either side. Now for miniature, which is the half scale, we'll have 1.5 from side seam to your center back, 1.5 from side seam to your center front, 1.5. That's from the side seam, 1.5, 1.5. Now from the 1.5 to your center back, you go up 0.75, which is half of 1.5 for what you did for full scale. So from the 1.5 you've marked in, you take up 0.75 and mark. Same thing, 0.75 and mark. So it's best you work with your set square to ensure you have a straight line. So I'm going to be using this angle of my, make sure I place it very well. This is 0.75 off and 0.75. Now for the center back, at the top part of your center back, take up 0.25. For your full scale, what we did was 0.5. So you have to divide whatever measurement you have, which is 0.25 take up 0.25. Using your ruler, connect 0.75 to 0.25. Placement of tape is important, and you erase, ensure you erase properly all unwanted lines. Next, connect to the center front. The 0.75 you blend to nothing on the center front. Next step, on the upper hip line at the side seam, take in 0.25 on either side. So we'll do 0.25 to the center back, 0.25 to the center front. Don't forget, for your standard, what you used was 0.5. So now you're going to work with 0.25, 0.25, 0.25. Next is connect. To connect from the 0.75, passing through the 0.25. Make sure it touches the side seam line. So it should stop before the hip line. Make sure it doesn't get to the hip line. So you have to blend to nothing before the hip line. Flip the curve and connect the other part. Ensure it touches the 0.25 line. It must touch the line. So this is it. Next, for the dart, for your half scale dart, from center back, you measure 3.5, which is half of the full scale. 3.5 for that. Y for the center front is 3.75. 3.75 and mark. Next, for the second dart leg, measure what you have from your 3.5 to the waist. This is 8 and I'll have 4. Now measure what I have for my 3.75 to the side, which is 7.8. 3.5, 1, 2, 3, 3.9. So this is my midpoint and this is my midpoint. Now for the center back, the standard, that's for your full scale, the dart length is 15.5. So half of 15.5, we're going to have 15.5 divided by 2. That's 7.75. So our dart length will be 7.75. That's for your first. This is 7.5, 6, 7. So in between 7 and 8 is 7.75. So ensure, use your set square to in order to get the straight line. So I'm going to use my curve ruler and make sure I place properly to, this is 7.75. Next, the second dart is 14 cm for full scale. So half of 14 cm is going to be 7 cm. So please work with set square. It makes it easier and ensures you have a straight line. Okay, next, the center back dart for full scale is 3 cm. Now for half scale, that means you use half of 3 cm, which is 1.5. And for the 1.5, you divide 1.5 into 2 to connect on both sides. So that will be 0.75 on either side. So I have 0.75 here, 0.75 at the back. The total is 1.5. For the second dart leg, the second dart leg is 1 cm. With 2 cm, that's half scale will now be 1 cm. So if you have 1 cm for half scale, that's 0.5 on either side. So we are doing half scale basic block is half of the full scale. So that's what we'll have. And I'll connect to the dart leg, connect to the dart leg. Same thing. Connect to your dart leg, connect to your dart leg. So here we have 0.5, 0.5. Here we have 0.75, 0.75. Our dart length here is 7.75. Here is 7 cm. This, let's always indicate it so we'll know what we are working on. Now move on to the center front. The first dart leg, the length is 10 cm for full scale. Now For the half scale is going to be 5 cm. 5 cm for half scale. Let's not forget placement of set square is very important in order to ensure a straight line. So I'm just going to place this very well. Using a set square makes it very easy for you. So the next one is 9 cm for full scale, which means half of 9 cm, that's 4.5 for half scale. So we're using half 4.5, and I'll ensure it's straight by placing. So we have 5 cm here and 4.5 here for that length. So center front, the first dart, the width is 2.5 for full scale. So half of 2.5 for half scale. So that means our width for here is going to be 1.25. So if we divide 1.25 into 2, 1.25 divided by 2, I'll get 0.625. So I'll have 0.62 on either side. 0.6 here and 0.6 here. For the second dart leg, the width is 1.5 for the full scale. So that means half scale is going to be 0.75 for the width. So what I need to do is 0.75 divided by 2 is 0.375. So I have 0.337, so in between 3 and 4. And then we'll have 0.3 between 3 and 4. And then connect. So you connect it to the back legs. Please don't forget to subscribe and like the video if it's helpful. Next, on the hem of the side seam, for full scale we did 0.5 on either side. Now for half scale we'll mark 0.25. That's 1, 2, in between 2 and 3. I'll mark 1, 2, in between 2 and 3. I'll mark. And then using your ruler, connect to the hip line. Let it blend to nothing on the hip line. Same thing to the other side. So don't forget to label. This is basic cat block size 14 half scale. Please subscribe, like, and share the video. Thank you.